Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Finnerty, and I am so excited to be partnering with Brand Storytelling to bring you this very special happy hour. You guys might remember me. I'm Megan from the Storytellers Project and Storytellers Brand Studio from USA Today. And it was literally a year ago this week on Tuesday that I was emceeing this event live up at Sundance. And God, that was great. I wish we were all back there together, but I don't wish that I were still really pregnant because that's what was happening a year ago. I'm really excited to be here bringing this show to you guys in our happy hour form. We really appreciate you taking a chance on live storytelling. We're joining Brand Storytelling to bring you this like fun happy hour. This is the second one. We've got a third one coming up. And I want to first introduce my co-producer, everyone's favorite person, Jordan Kelly. Come say hi.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Jordan Kelly, content director over here at Brand Storytelling. So grateful to have our storytellers here today and really, really grateful to Megan and team for co-producing. We're in for a great show and happy to just sort of take a load off here for a minute and hear some personal and excellent tales on the bounce back.
That's right. Thank you, Jordan.
Of course.
So you guys, what we have for you today, I'm going to introduce you in just a second to all of our storytellers, but here's the big idea. You guys know normally we would be together and hanging out and like basking in the glory that is Utah in the summer. But right now we know it doesn't feel safe for all of us to like get together and gather. So you guys know Brand Storytelling is doing its summer session and we're here to keep everyone connected through story. So I want to introduce you to our storytellers. First up, Danielle Dardashti. Hi, Danielle. Hi. We want everyone to know, first of all, look at Danielle's hair. It's amazing, like real hair envy here this afternoon. But you guys remember, Danielle is coming back low key as a ringer on tonight's show. She won this competition last year. Although we promise you that our other storytellers, and Danielle will tell you this, have like excellent stories, right?
Yeah, but what a great time we had there in Park City together this week, last year.
Yeah,
and I'm hoping we'll be able to do it again soon.
Fingers crossed.
In the meantime, thanks for having me back tonight.
Yeah, we're excited to have Danielle back. This is like her victory lap. And I'll tell you a little bit when Danielle's story comes up. We're gonna we'll tell you a little bit more about her as a storyteller and what she's been up to since you last saw her. I want to bring up Evan Roberts. He's the director of marketing for the Storytellers Project and Storytellers Brand Studio. Hi, Evan.
Hi,
we're excited to have Evan. He has not been to Utah with storytellers. He's like our guide behind the scenes, making things happen. And it is a joy of my heart that you guys can meet him today because frankly, he should be with us like next time we'll come to Utah. Corinne Stapenhorst is joining us. She is an avid writer and hi, Corinne. Avid writer and traveler and previous storyteller out of Ventura. We're excited to have Courtney Colwell. You guys might remember Courtney. She's certainly a brand storytelling favorite and fan. She is director of content marketing at American Express. And we'll tell you a little bit more about her as we get into the show. And Kimberly Rose Smith is a writer and she is a naming expert. I'll tell you a little bit more about her business as we get into the show, but legit, Kimberly is in charge of naming things. There's a lot to it. And she's got like all kinds of interesting stories, some of which she's going to tell us about today. So thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank
We're going
you.
to get into, hi everyone. Okay, here's the deal, guys. Here's what we're not doing. Tonight's not a TED Talk. It's not Toastmasters. It's not how-to inspirational speeches. And we're not really here to even sell you anything. It's just for fun. This storytelling is all about feeling like you're visiting with each other. So I hope that you are drinking. I hope that you are in appropriate air conditioning. And I hope that you are ready to open your heart to some new friends. What we are here to do is have stories that are polished and professional. Some will be casual and conversational. They're just going to be reflective of the personalities of the storytellers themselves. We're not here to like micromanage personal performance. The big idea undergirding this show is we know that empathy and understanding in community are vital always, but especially in times of uncertainty like we're experiencing right now. And it is the joy of my life to welcome up our first teller. Are you guys ready for Courtney Colwell? Go ahead, Courtney.
Thank you very much. This one is called How I Got Into Accounting. When I first moved from San Francisco back to New York, I thought this time I was doing it right. I mean, I had briefly lived in New York just out of college, and at that time, I shared a studio with a roommate. You want to know what that's like? It's like when the other person wants to go to sleep, it's pretty much lights out. But this time, I had a job that paid enough for me to have my own place, no roommates. I was joining a cool agency that worked with media companies, which is where I really wanted to be. And most importantly, I was escaping the dot-com implosion in Silicon Valley. As thousands of people were losing their jobs to the West, I'd be safe in the East. That was June of 2001. And of course, things changed after September 11th. But this isn't a story about that day or living in New York at that time. It's much more about how within 30 days, the agency I worked for lost all of its contracts. The recession had spread and was now compounded by panic. Advertisers were bailing on the magazines, and the magazines bailed on us. It was my first time getting laid off, but I wasn't that upset about the job. The few months I'd been in it were enough to know how much I hated it. I was working for someone who was brilliant, but temperamental, to put it mildly. To put it less mildly, he was abusive, verbally and sometimes physically. Two of his assistants suffered breakdowns, and I myself once had a cell phone thrown at me, miss, and fly out an open window down 43 flights to a thankfully empty sidewalk below. I was so stressed in that job, I didn't even recognize it. It wasn't until during a visit with my parents when I joked about quitting my job and becoming a bartender, and my parents told me, "Oh, that's a great idea." I mean, nothing says that maybe you need a change like your parents advocating that you work behind a bar. So I'd known for a while I needed to find another job, but I was just too afraid to take the risk. My previous two jobs had come through people I know, so I never had to face that potential rejection. Plus, I felt a little guilty, like I owed this agency for moving me across country. And then, of course, there was a recession. But now here I was. And for the first few weeks of searching online, I was optimistic, happy even. I hoped I could now find a job at a media company, the job I really wanted. But as 1 month turned to 2 and then 3, without an interview, much less an offer, I started to worry. Unemployment was climbing across the city and around the country. I even attended a 9/11 job fair at Madison Square Garden, that's how big it was, and the line to get in stretched for blocks. Once inside, I found the only jobs available were either in healthcare, law enforcement, or the fire department. I wasn't qualified for the first and too afraid of fire for the last. I did, however, talk to an FBI recruiter, but only because she pulled me out of the free coffee line to ask if I run. Run where? I asked. She laughed. No, do you work out? How do you stay fit? I wanted to say I'd just been consuming less food and alcohol lately due to being broke. Then she asked, have you ever used a firearm? Not recently, I said. I didn't want to lie, and I wanted her to stay. I was flattered to have anyone at all talking to me at this point, and I was honestly starting to think a little bit about how badass I would look in a FBI vest and how many clubs I could get into with a badge. She handed me an application, which I took home and held on to for a little while, but I figured I'd give the job search just a little bit longer before packing up for Quantico. So I kept looking and looking. As I watched my savings dwindle, I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my heart pounding. It happened a few times before I learned that it was a panic attack, and taking a hot shower could at least help me get back to sleep. And by the end of 4 months, I was practically sterile. I read over 100 rejection emails and quickly got over that fear of rejection. I received one that said they had over 1,200 applications for one job. Now, that might seem daunting, but it actually helped to know that I wasn't alone. Then I wondered how many had actually been qualified, as I clearly was not. I had finally realized I had a resume that read like a .com graveyard with companies no one had heard of or no longer existed. I had stopped looking for jobs at the same salary and title as where I had been and was now just settling for anything with a salary. I mean, all I had left to lose was my pride, and that wasn't going to pay the rent. And then I couldn't pay the rent. After about 5 months, I had to cut my losses. I wasn't completely broke, but I was getting there pretty quickly. I gave up my apartment, sold what I could, and put the rest into the smallest, cheapest storage unit I could find. What went with me was a laptop and a suitcase that I carted to friends' apartments, couch surfing before there was an app for that. I mean, I wasn't living on the street, but I was essentially homeless. In the span of only a few months, I'd lost my job, my savings, my apartment, my belongings. I had lost everything, except for my friends. They gave me a place to sleep. They fed me, got me drunk, kept me sane. They were everything. What happened then was the anxiety disappeared. None of that stuff seemed as important anymore. A couch, a coffee table. I mean, was that really why I endured the abuse at the old job? Why I let myself get so stressed? I mean, sure, now I had to push restart, but at least it would be for the better. So I was homeless, but not hopeless, though my luck seemed to be going from bad to just plain mean. I finally got my first interview, and it was for a junior level job with the ARP. Yeah, not getting any clubs with that badge. But I went in with a good attitude, even as I sat down and realized that the interviewer was someone who just a few months before had applied for a role working for me. I hadn't hired him then and could tell from his questions and not so subtle gloating, he wasn't going to hire me now. And the next job I got an interview for was something I wanted even less. It was a marketing role at an accounting firm. The position offered less than half of what I previously made. And did I mention accounting? I mean, even the hiring manager asked me point blank why I wanted the role. You know, accounting's really boring, he said. I couldn't even pretend to disagree. At the end of the interview, he then told me, you know, if I offered you the job, I'd expect you to be in the role for at least 2 years. I hoped I could be in it for just 2 months. I didn't know if I could last. But I mean, it was practically an entry-level job with no contract, and I'd already learned not to stay somewhere I didn't want to be just because I felt like I owed it to them. It certainly wasn't like they owed it to me. Sure, I said. Of course I got the job. He was right. Accounting is really boring, but not as bad as I thought. I actually stayed in that job for 2 years. I learned a lot. I wrote a lot. My responsibilities were to edit client newsletters. And during that time, I was able to rebuild financially. I got an apartment about the size of that original studio, but at least it was mine and I could sleep whenever I wanted. I also learned that sometimes you take a chance and never know where it might lead. That firm, while I was there, was acquired by American Express. It was later sold off, but while I was there, I worked for Amex. And that opened many doors, including to my next role at Departures Magazine. I did get into media. It just took a little longer. After a few years, I moved out of that tiny rental and bought a condo and now a house. And maybe it's a bit overly cautious, but I still keep enough money on hand to pay the mortgage for at least a year. It's not just in case I lose a job, it's in case I leave. I don't ever again want to feel like I'm trapped. I'd rather take a risk with the confidence knowing that even if the next thing doesn't work out, I can lose everything. It can happen, but I'll still find a way to bounce back. Maybe even something better. Thank you.
Courtney, thank you so much for your story.
Yeah.
One of the things I really respect about Courtney's story is her incredible sense of humor. First of all, she did, I don't know if you caught it, because it's hard on internet shows, but she said she showered so much that she was sterile, which I thought was both gross and funny. But I so appreciate you modeling like such resilient behavior and like such a positive attitude. Because especially, I know so many of us are anxious about our jobs, and I know you're not saying like that everyone has a year's worth of savings, because you didn't at the time, but you really you persevered. And I know that's a really comforting lesson, right? Or a comforting message right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to welcome up our next storyteller. Oh, wait, I do want to say Courtney is the real deal. She is super passionate about journalism. She's passionate about brand marketing, and she writes all the time. She's a member of the New York Writers Workshop. And earlier she joked that she's been working on a novel for more than 20 years. And that's how you know she's serious about it, because really good writers always know you're never done. There's never a last draft. So thanks for your story, Courtney. I'm excited to welcome up Danielle Dardashti. Since she last told, she has broken into the strategic storytelling game, and she wants you guys to know she's available for booking for virtual and corporate workshops on strategic storytelling. She can help you work through team building, professional development, and you can hit her up on LinkedIn but she can't see you. So don't just wave at her right now. She can't see you. The camera only goes one way. All right, Danielle, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Megan. And thanks for having me back to tell this story a second time. It takes place in January of 2013. I was in a job I loved with a boss I loved at a major media company. On Tuesday, January 15th, I closed the largest deal of my career, multi-million dollars, all new business for the company. I was feeling pretty amazing that day, like I was walking on water, being treated like a huge rock star, getting high-fived all the way down the halls like in a movie. 3 days later, my daughter Raquel got a stomach bug, and I took a sick day from work. It's Friday morning, and I'm on the bathroom floor with her. I had spent most of the night there. And around 9 a.m., during a lull between vomiting episodes, I noticed 3 missed calls from my boss on my phone. So I call her quickly back. When she starts talking, I can hear that she's on speakerphone and she doesn't sound like herself. She says, "Hi, Danielle. Sorry if I caught you at a bad time. It's important. I'm in Dina's office," and Dina was the head of HR. "We had to make some tough decisions. Several positions were eliminated, including yours. The rest is a blur. Something about major layoffs, numbers on a spreadsheet. My email is already cut off. They're overnighting me a package." My daughter starts throwing up again, and I'm holding a wet rag on her head, leaning over the toilet with her, reassuring her that I'm okay, but I'm not okay. I'm a wreck. I'm feeling rejected and unappreciated, and I cry all day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That Monday was Martin Luther King Day, and Obama was inaugurated to his second term on that day. I remember sitting in my living room in my pajamas watching the inauguration on TV and feeling a sense of hope re-emerging in me, inspired, like, yes, I can take a shower. Yes, I can put on a bra. Yes, I can open that severance package and see what's inside. So I tear it open. 6 months severance? So generous. I was only at the company a couple of years. I'm feeling elated and super grateful. So I decide to write an email to my boss to thank her. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of people to thank and a story to tell. So I decide to copy the chief revenue officer, the chief marketing officer, and the CEO on this email. My email went something like this. "Dear everyone, thanks for the awesome opportunity to work with all of you. I am most grateful. Thank you for having the imagination and foresight to hire a reporter and documentary producer like me. You recognized my abilities and you promoted me into this amazing role. And look at all that we accomplished together. Like just this week, this multi-million-dollar client that I reeled in. I know you'll do a great job with them and make me proud. Gratefully yours, Danielle Dardashti." And I didn't want to overthink it, so I just hit send. A few hours later, I got a call from someone in HR. "Hello, Danielle. I work for Dina. I'm calling to let you know that we have granted your request for an enhanced severance package. We will overnight you another package reflecting our new offer of 12-month severance instead of 6, plus your entire back end on the multi-million-dollar deal." And I'm thinking, what the fuck? Turns out my enthusiastic email was misinterpreted as a threat to sue them. I couldn't believe it. So what's my takeaway? Well, it never hurts to express your gratitude and tell your story. And sometimes it pays off big time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Danielle, thank you so much, Danielle. Oh my God. We didn't ask Danielle exactly how much money it was, but she says she's still thankful.
I'm so thankful.
Right. Awesome. Danielle, thanks so much for your story. And I want to point out, you guys, when Danielle told us live last year, literally like around this time, there was there were like lots of other really good storytellers, but the thing that I want to ask you, Danielle, like the feedback you most got when you were like getting drinks later, people were just like dumbfounded that you were so sincere and that had been so misunderstood. Does it just feel like too many lawyers in the room?
I don't know. I think a lot of people, it's funny. Every time I tell this story, someone says that they know someone who's just been laid off from their job and they're going to tell them to write a super grateful, sincere email. I had no ulterior motives. I was just feeling like over the moon happy at that moment and did it. But yeah, there was a lot going on behind the scenes there between that group of people that I emailed. So,
and you said you do have that original email and you're willing to sell it as a template.
Yeah, you know what? When I wrote the story last year, I didn't do it based off the email, but then after I told the story at Elevate, a few people said, "Do you have that email?" And I went back and found it, and it was almost word for word that giddy, enthusiastic, crazy email that I wrote.
Awesome. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for your story and like encouraging us all.
You're welcome, Megan. You're a blast and a great storytelling coach. So thank you too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you, Danielle. And you guys do know, if you volunteer to be part of these shows, we will workshop you. We'll help you out with your stories. That's what that's what my team, Storytelling Brand Studio, does all the time. We help people do live shows like this. So if you ever want to get coached and you want to do this, volunteer to be on our next show later next month. We're going to get into our third storyteller. My colleague, Evan Roberts, is bringing you a story about his own personal bounce back. And we're excited to have him. Take it away, Evan.
Oh. Sorry. All right. So I moved to Phoenix from Ohio after graduation without much of a plan. I thought I was going to get some magic job in public relations at an agency, and it didn't really pan out initially. My job search, once I was here, lasted about 3 months, and I was living with a friend from high school in Scottsdale. And I was freelance writing, so I was making about enough to pay the rent, but that was it. But I was also attending a lot of networking events from local professional organizations, and one of them had a job board. And so I would scroll it, just kind of scanning to see if something would pop up. And one day it did. And it was a social media coordinator position for the local art museum, Phoenix Art Museum. And I was so ecstatic. I had been around the arts, my entire life. And I thought that this would be the perfect job for me. So I applied and I interviewed on my birthday, my 24th birthday, and I got the job. And for about 2.5 years, it was a glorious experience. I was able to move out of my friend's house, got my own apartment in Uptown. I was taking the train to downtown. I was downtown Charlie Brown, just really living it up. We had so many cool events, and I met so many local artists, and getting to know them and help tell their stories on the museum social media and the stories of other artists like Candy Wiley was so fulfilling. And it was an entry-level salary, but it came with so much, satisfaction and kind of clout. I would tell people I worked at the art museum and they'd go, "Oh," and anybody who works at an art museum might not tell you this, but a little bit of the reason why is for the clout. But after about 3 years, management changed. I had been working on the marketing team, and my boss was incredible. She was fierce and fun and super thoughtful, and she really supported me. She was also very knowledgeable and really was really open to listening to my ideas, and especially ideas about new things to try with social media. So when she left, I felt a very strong loyalty toward her. And as a matter of principle, I left too. I'd been recruited on LinkedIn by a recruiter for a for-profit education company. And it was a significant pay raise. So I took it. I thought, maybe making some more money, I will be happier even. And it turned out that that was not the case. And I learned very quickly. After about 3 months, the job itself wasn't necessarily hard, but it wasn't I didn't feel like I was helping anyone. I didn't feel, it was so much less satisfying, even though the pay was great. And I just really felt a lot of stress. You know, it felt like there were clothespins like pinching my shoulders. And I felt that stress throughout my entire body, and ended up getting appendicitis about 3 months in. So I had an appendectomy, and I stayed home for about a week on painkillers and trying to heal up. It was laparoscopic, so there were only a few stitches. And that Friday, I had the surgery on like a Monday. That Friday, I decided that I had healed as much as I was going to or needed to, and I didn't need the painkillers anymore. So I decided to take a walk. I went up to this local French grocery store, and my girlfriend at the time had been taking care of me and, you know, serving as my nurse, making sure I took my meds or whatever. And while she was at work, I was like, I'm going to make her a super nice dinner. So I got the ingredients to make a lovely fall soup and a beautiful baguette. And I'm slicing the baguette in my kitchen with my bread knife that's serrated. And I pick up the end and I'm slicing it this way, and it stops on the crust. And I go, oh, that's weird. And I go, and slice right through my flexor tendon in my pinky. So I had went from no surgeries my entire life to 2 surgeries in about a month. With the haze from the pain medication and having one hand gone, I wasn't really able to type much, but I didn't have short-term disability, so I had to go immediately back to work. Shortly after that, I was told that I was creating undue hardship on my team, and they fired me. I can't say I was completely devastated. I actually felt a lot of relief because that job was, for me, very stressful to begin with. And I thought, this is when I can go and find somewhere to be happy again. So I waited, I healed, or let my hand heal anyway. But I found a job at another museum in the area. It was a music museum. And like I said, I've been around the arts my entire life. I was a singer in high school. Two of my siblings are professional musicians now. My dad was a professional musician. I thought this was going to be a cinch. But my work style is a little different. I'm very spontaneous. I feel things in the moment and I go with them. I go with my gut. And that was not really the culture of the place where I started. So it wasn't a good fit. And after about 4 months, I was let go again. And this time I really started to doubt myself, because even though I wasn't giving, 100%, or like I didn't think I was giving 100%. I knew I was giving something, and no one seemed to want it. So I thought a lot about what I should be doing as far as, my career. And I thought back to when I was a child and I wanted to be a chef. And I had this vision in my head of entering a local restaurant and them being obsessed with my palate and turning over the keys to the kitchen. And I ruled the kitchen and, created all my own dishes. But so I started applying for restaurant jobs, and having no experience working in a restaurant, no one hired me. I was coming from an interview one day, a little dejected, and I stopped at a local taco shop that was walking distance from my apartment. And the owner took pity on me, and I talked to him. He had a hiring sign. I told him I had no experience, and he said, okay, we'll teach you. And I said, good, I'm a fast learner. And so I got that job at the taco shop. I started working front of house, and the system completely blew me away. Like, I was not prepared. I had no idea what I was doing. And I got it after a few months, but I realized that magic job that I thought was going to happen either I had already had it or it was never going to come, or I had to make it myself. And so I began to put in plans to start my own business. I had a lot of friends who were entrepreneurs. I got advice from some of them on starting getting your LLC. I took courses on, Google's Academy and got Google certified for analytics and search. And I made my own website and made business cards on Moo. And it was also around that time that I started going to a lot of storytelling shows. Phoenix has a really strong storytelling community. And there were quite a few shows that I would attend where, I had friends who were the organizers, and we would, they would try to get me to tell stories on shows. I would tell stories on shows. And then when I began my business, I reached out to them, and a couple of them came on to let me do digital marketing for their shows. And it was at one of these shows for a storyline slam that I ran into Megan, and I had set up a text to subscribe with Google Voice where people could text the number, and I would reply from the Google email with the link to sign up for the email newsletter. And it wasn't like a particularly sophisticated system, but she saw the potential in it, and she asked to meet with me. So we ended up meeting at that same French restaurant, the grocery store, and she asked me for a marketing plan. I didn't know everything that she needed, but I did know what she was missing. So I wrote up a plan, presented to her and to her boss, and they liked it. And they brought me on to the Storytellers Project. It's been about 3 years since that happened, and I can say that it's been so fulfilling to be back with the arts and helping people learn the art of storytelling and helping everyday people get on stage and share their story. I'm happy again and fully healed.
Evan, thank you for sharing your story. How do you feel?
Thank you for having me.
He's like so.
I feel good. It's funny. I hadn't really processed a lot of the things that had happened and how much, can I say crap back to back, but it was a tough time. I'm glad I'm through it now. I have a friend who's like really spiritual, and she says it was my Saturn return. So, if that's how Saturn returns, I'm glad it's over.
That's right. God bless. Well, Evan, our team is lucky to have you, and everyone watching, I'm so excited you've gotten to meet Evan, because it is really true. I was like, man, if only we had text to subscribe, everything about everything would be better. And I just want you to know that everything is better now that Evan's on our team. So if you ever want to work with us and hang out, this is Evan. He'll talk to you about. I also want to point out, guys, Evan really, when you described cutting your hand, it was so visceral that I literally felt sick to my stomach. So if any of you are watching and you also wish that he hadn't been so specific, I agree with you.
Well, that's an injury we share, right?
It's disgusting. Get out. Okay, we're going to go to our next storyteller. It's too intense. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited to welcome up Kimberly Rose. Kimberly, it has, like I mentioned, she has a really interesting job. She is a naming expert. But Kimberly Smith. It's Kimberly Rose Smith. She runs Namegirl.com, which, by the way to win the URL wars. And really, seriously, Kimberly's the kind of person who can research your name. She can look it up in every language and figure out if it's appropriate or going to get you in trouble when you try to go international. But she's also, it's true. She's also a writer. She writes plays, short stories, films, sketch comedy. So she's really a one-woman shop. But today she's going to tell us a story about who she was before this happened. Take it away.
Thank you, Megan. My story is about the exact moment that I knew my marriage was over. I was sitting outside CVS in a parking lot in my car with 2 thick packets of photos, about 60 photos. And they were from my daughter's 3-year-old birthday party. And I was looking through the photos, and there were plenty of photos of my daughter and my husband and my in-laws, friends and family, but none of me. So I kept looking, and I looked at the thumbnails, the little tiny index they used to give you. And I was certain that there were some photos that just hadn't been developed, which back then CVS would make an executive decision to not develop this photo because it's too blurry or not enough light. And I just knew I would be going back in the store to find the photos and have them developed, but they weren't there. I mean, there were photos of me holding my daughter as she blew out the candles, or holding, cutting the cake as she stuck her finger in it, or, greeting friends and family, a back view of my head as I hugged people. But it was as if to my husband, who was the family photographer, I didn't exist, or he didn't want to see me in his photo album of life. I felt like a prop. I felt like I was evaporating. At that moment, we had been married about 9 years. We met through a personal ad in Boston. From the very first date, I thought he was my dream man. He was 6'2", tall, dark and handsome, looked like Steven Seagal. People used to actually stop and ask him for his autograph. More importantly, he was a good guy. He's a great father and always has been, but I knew that back then. Somehow I knew that. And he's kept his word to me on every single thing he's ever said. He's kept his word to this day. But at that moment, sitting in the parking lot, I remembered another moment, another icky kind of awareness that things were not where they should be. We had gone over to a neighbor's house a couple of years before, and it turned out we had been, almost in the same area for our honeymoon, or gone the same exact year, or had the same anniversary or something. So we're comparing honeymoon photos. And I had the same sick feeling, because there was photo after photo after photo of this beautiful bride and da-da-da-da. And I'm not the jealous type, believe me. But I only had like 3 photos of me. And one of them, I had to do the art directing, because I could fit into a La Perla bikini, and I was so excited. And then another, of course, people took pictures of us, wishing us happy anniversary, but none from my husband trying to capture our love on film. And there was this one photo that really stood out, that to this day is seared into my head. And that is a really close-up of her and her eyes as she looked at her husband with this dewy, fresh out of bed look, and so much love in her eyes. I almost thought I could see his reflection in her eyes, but I could certainly feel him in that photo. I almost felt like I was eavesdropping. It was, even now I can feel it, the air sucked out of me. I sat there and I knew what I knew in that parking lot, that if I ever wanted that kind of love, I would have to leave the marriage. So 1 year later, when I left my husband, as I was filing for divorce, one of the first things I did was I hired a top national photographer to take photos of me. Very tasteful, beautiful, glamorous boudoir photographs. I was now on my way to being a divorced mom with 3 small children. I absolutely had no time to go shopping for any new clothes or styling or lose weight and get tan. And I did not have a boyfriend. It was not for anyone but for me, though. I needed proof that I existed, and what I knew about myself was not some hallucinatory pipe dream. The day I got back the photos, I could not stop looking at them. I could not stop crying. Not because I was finally in the photo, where I had been lost, I was found. Yeah, that was part of it. But it was what I saw. I saw the Kim that I knew that I could be. So it was amazing. And I took those photos, I used them for my profile on LinkedIn, and I set about relaunching my career, which I had taken off 10 years to be at home with my children, a choice that I was really happy about. But the lawyers told me I was crazy to get divorced in the middle of the Great Recession. My accountant told me that the math just didn't work. There wasn't enough money for 2 households. So I had to work. My recruiter told me I was, good luck. You've been out of work for 10 years and the average age in Boston is 22. But I knew something. I knew they had all been wrong before and they were going to be wrong again. And I had photos to prove it. So I set out to prove them all wrong. I knew that the new digital economy needed my skills as a marketer, as a former digital marketer. I'd worked with high-tech startups like Monster.com and global companies like Cartier, and I'm a writer. And I love short stories. I love shrinking things down like a haiku. And that was a great skill to have in the new digital economy. So I set about putting a shingle out on Elance and websites. I went to every writer's workshop I could to relaunch my writer's career as well. I tended my LinkedIn profile like a garden. I was constantly tweaking it and became almost a semi-expert. And I found the niche of naming, which I really, really love. It combines my marketing skills, my writing skills, and the ability to condense and distill down massive amounts of brand stories and into, clickbait headlines or taglines, or a brand's essence into 1 or 2 words. I love the challenge. So I trace it almost back to those photos that gave me the proof that I wasn't delusionary, that I did have some imposter syndrome, I have to admit, and it wasn't easy, but I traced it back to those photos so much for giving me back my mojo and my confidence. I don't know what it is, but there's something about getting it out, putting it on paper, in a photograph or a film or painting or even graffiti on the side of the road. It says to the world, hey, this is proof positive that I'm here. Thank you.
Kim, thank you so much for your story. Oh my gosh.
Oh, thank you for your help.
Oh man, it was such a pleasure to, one of the things I really love about your story is that sense of like how visceral you paint the pictures of like feeling disappointed, and yet you're obviously still filled with like understanding and affection for like your co-parenting role with your ex-husband, and like you really modeled what feels like real grace in how you talk about the end of your marriage and how you've come out of it.
Well, thank you. We are great co-parents, and my joke is if I had known he was going to be this wonderful an ex-husband, I would have done it sooner. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen. No, that's good, actually. Yeah.
Thank you for all your coaching. Oh my God.
Well, we appreciate it. It's fun to get the chance to work together. So ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to check out Kim more, she's at namegirl.com. And just has a really interesting website. She has a list of things she knows how to do, because I did Google her. She has a list of things that she can do for you that like I didn't even know these were things. Like international naming rights and looking up words and seeing what they translate to. So thank you for that. Our last storyteller is Corinne Stapenhorst. She has a story that many of you are clumsy like me, although I'm not college clumsy Corinne, like I am. Many of you are clumsy like me, yet you're really going to relate to Corinne's story. Take it away.
Hi. Today I stand tall at 5 feet 4 inches with 1 titanium plate and 4 long screws in my right ankle. How I dislocated my right ankle can be summed up in 2 words: ice skating. I'm a naturally clumsy person, and when you combine that with pride and stupidity, the result was me relying on crutches for 8 months. In college, I worked full-time, extensively studied, and participated in groups and activities around campus. I preferred to remain busy and was always on the go. I transferred to CSUCI as a junior plus during my 5-year plan and graduating with a degree in English. I transferred with the intention of gaining a well-rounded college experience. Attending community college for 3 years allocated time for me to pursue a major I was passionate about. Also, there was no hope when it came to me in math or science courses. I moved out of my parents' house from Northern California to Southern California into the dorms on campus. During the first spring week at CSUCI, I attended a free ice skating event for students. The option of free for any broke college student is beyond enticing. While trying to glide off the ice, I broke my fibula, causing a dislocation. I mistakenly waited until the next morning to go to urgent care when I woke up to my right ankle very swollen and bruised. My ankle was x-rayed, and my doctor informed me I needed surgery. Then I needed to wait weeks to heal so my physical therapist could teach me how to literally walk again. I experienced an array of emotions after hearing this news that at one point I was hysterically crying and laughing at the same time. When I dislocated my ankle, I was in my early 20s. I never had broken a bone before, and I was an athlete most of my life at this point. At every step in my recovery, a great uncertainty was stressed that I might not be the same active person. My parents drove down the California coast to assist me before and after the surgery. I'm the youngest of 5, and by being the baby, my parents are overprotective. But I am prone to bizarre accidents because I have the habit of acting without thinking. My parents were convinced I was not prepared enough for adult life, and being brutally honest was their best solution. They suggested I move back home and drop out of my courses to heal properly. They were not confident I could support myself with a dislocated ankle, all while still trying to be a college student living on campus. To be honest, at the time, I wasn't sure I could either. Life on crutches was disorienting. I was warned about the extra difficulty that comes with showering, getting dressed, shopping, cooking, and just basic maneuvering around on crutches. I showered while sitting on a handicap bench with my cast wrapped in plastic. I got dressed while laying on my bed. I cooked while sitting in and leaning on a desk chair that contained a booster seat. My fast-paced lifestyle slowed down immensely because I physically had to. Crutches became my new best friends. Luckily, CSUCI is a small campus, but carrying a heavy book bag is challenging when crutching to class. I left an hour early to ensure I would not be late. I took breaks when crutching across campus because it was a workout to even go the shortest distance. I utilize all benches on campus, and I showed up to class out of breath and often looking like I just came from spin class. Teachers, classmates, and fellow students living in the dorms recognized me around campus. They referred to me as Crutch Girl, and I even began answering to the nickname. While leaning on crutches, I would present in front of my classmates. I would state my name and introduce my crutches, jokingly saying my crutches were going to be presenting my PowerPoints. My teachers were compassionate, but because I didn't drop out of my courses, I was never given any special treatment. I was never granted any extra time to finish assignments. No extraordinary measures were offered in class. A teacher even jokingly stated, "My brain wasn't broken, only my ankle was." He was right. I couldn't work or even drive. I was confined to my dorm room other than the times I was in class, the library, or the cafe. I aced all my courses that semester, but that happens when you can commit all your time to studying. I missed out on dorm parties and group meetups. The possibility of causing more damage forced me to be excluded. I was angry, disappointed, and frustrated at myself for putting myself in this position. I gained about 15 pounds. I often slipped when my crutches worked against me. Opening doors was impossible. The simple act of getting up from a chair, a bench, or from my bed took major effort. I tried my hardest to not complain or appear to be struggling, which caused greater feelings of isolation and depression. A year later, after my surgery and physical therapy, I was able to walk across the stage to receive my degree without the assistance of crutches. Those crutches were the bane of my existence, but they were necessary for me to use in graduating college. I made peace with how my college experience played out. When I moved out of my parents' house, I felt invincible at having my own independence. I am now more patient, humble, and realistic when it comes to life not working out. Ironically, after I recovered, friends and family members since then have had to rely on crutches. They reference my injury when they talk about the struggles that they're facing. I respond with empathy and try to remind them to remain positive, as that was the hardest lesson. They laugh when I tell them I am part bionic college graduate that conveniently doesn't set off any metal detectors.
Corinne, thank you so much for your story.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, you guys, we didn't pick Corinne because of this, but I broke my back in college and spent 3 months in a back brace. And I was on the dean's list that semester because I had nothing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, thanks for keeping it real, Corinne. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Ladies and
you.
gentlemen, oh yeah, man, stay with us. We're going to bring up all of our storytellers here. Let's say hi to everybody. If you want to thank our storytellers and do like tiny internet clapping for Evan and Danielle, and Corinne, thank you so much. And we want to thank our brand storytelling partners in this. We really want to thank Jordan for here's Jordan. Really want to thank Jordan for helping make this possible. Hi, Jordan. And of course, Rick Parkhill, his boss, who greenlit the project from the start. So with that, everybody, if you are inspired by tonight's storytelling show and you're like, I am hilarious and I should be up there telling a story, or if you were like, I wish I could get some of that sweet, sweet coaching from Megan, she's so intense, please pitch us. Jordan has been sending out emails asking for you guys to let us know what you want to talk about. We are here. So let us know. We really appreciate your time and your interest. Thanks for joining us for the show. Have a good one.